welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Urban Nation. We're gonna have a great conversation today with my brother Carl, and talking about his career journey and hugs. And no, this is not the guy who wears the free hugs T-shirt guy. When I first heard about him, or he was first introduced to me, I was like, oh, I get to. There's like, no, not that guy. But there's another brother out here who's all about hugs, and he's here with us today, my brother Carl. So, for those who don't know who Carl is, let's start off with opening this question: who is Carl? And you could take that as deep or as wide or as there as you want to. I'm gonna let you give us the journey. Who is Carl?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the intro. And no, I'm not the guy who gives free hugs, but I'll give you one if you need, right? If you want one. As far as who I am, so as you know, name's Carl. I'm originally from Haiti, so I'm not from the U.S. I only moved out here to the U.S. in 2019, and I moved here for my MBA at the University of San Diego. Did that, started in the fall of 2019, went through all of COVID, so that was supposed to be in person, right? And I was an international student, came here to do my experience in person. The semester after I moved, COVID happened, everything got shifted to virtual, so I was like here, but still doing it virtual, which was, disappointing, but had fun regardless. And then I graduated from that last year in 2021. And the reason why I started HUGS is because when I moved here, I had a little bit of, not a little bit, a lot bit of issues with finding housing, and we can get into that later. And a little bit more about who I am. Like I said, originally from Haiti. I lived there for the first 15 years of my life. So I was a teenager, then moved to the Dominican Republic after Haiti experienced a huge earthquake back in 2010. I moved there with my three younger brothers and the eldest of four. My mom always
Mhm.
wanted a daughter, so too bad for her. But moved there with my
Right.
brothers. I was 15. They were 13, 11, and 5. And then I basically raised them until I moved out here 9 years later.
Well, thank you for sharing that journey with us. Big shout out to my people in Haiti. Ça passe? Hopefully I said that right. Wyclef Jean and all those folks.
Yeah.
I haven't got a chance to visit Haiti, but I definitely would love to visit one day. If I go visit Haiti, tell me, where should I go? What should I eat? What's one of your favorite Haitian meals that just reminds you of home?
Ooh, first of all, you should eat everything. All the food is bomb. So I would not be a proud Haitian if I didn't say that. But if you do visit around New Year, our squash soup is really good. For independence means a lot to us. So
Mm,
that, as far as nostalgia, feeling like home, that's what I would say. And right now I live in California, but my mom lives in Florida, and I'm actually flying there tomorrow, and that's like the first thing I'm gonna eat.
mm,
And I make it there bright
mm.
and early. As far as spots to go,
Nice.
definitely go with someone you know, but the capital is pretty cool to visit, Port-au-Prince, and then two of the main city, well, three other main cities in the north and the south. Le Cap-Haïtien and Le Cayes are pretty good. And then there's a lot of historical monuments, so you'll definitely have a good time going there.
I love it. I love it. Now, tell me about your career journey. Like, how did you get into the current career you're in? Like, what would you call yourself? Like a tech, or like, what would you? How would you define your industry that you're in?
Uh, I'm in technology, most specifically real estate technology or prop tech is how people call it. I'm the CEO of the
Okay.
company, CEO and founder. A lot of people, would call me an entrepreneur or whatever. That's kind of a broad term, but I just like to get stuff done. I like to fix things. I like to, you know, arm a small army and attack a problem and fix it. That's what I really like to do. So that's
That,
the gist of it.
I love that. I love that. I think most entrepreneurs are. I think we're creative problem solvers. That's what we are, and we
Mhm.
we don't look at literally defining the industry we're in. We just kind of like, oh, this is a
Mhm.
problem. Let's solve it. Here's some of the things that we could piece together to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Um, growing up, would you say your parents had a big connection in helping you become who you are as like being that problem solver? And for me, I know my parents were big on education. I don't know if your parents were big on it. They was like, my friend, you
Mhm.
are going to study your books. You are going to be an engineer, lawyer, or a doctor. I don't know if your parents were like that, but that's how I initially got my journey into school. And then from that, the problem solver me and the creative in me led me into different career pathways. Tell me about that
Mhm.
journey. Like, was it similar for you, or was it very different with how you got into your industry and your career, into school, and to where it is
Yeah,
today?
I'd say 200%. I had a lot of influence from my parents. They both started businesses, were business owners for, you know, most of their lives. So that definitely influenced me without me even knowing. It wasn't conscious. That's just what I saw as a kid. But it was an interesting mix because my mom was very big on school, or is very big on school. She used to say like, whatever you do in life, bring me a degree, right? Like whatever you decide to do, ultimately, you have to go to school and get something done, right? So that I'm not sure exactly what she meant as far as if it's a plan B, or if it's like, your passion probably won't pay you, something like that. But it was interesting because
Hmm.
she used to say, go to school, you'll get a job, degree, whatever, but she owned a business, right? So it was
Hmm.
a definitely an interesting perspective to have. And now thinking about it in retrospect, I sort of emulated a lot of their behavior uh, as a kid, right? Like my first, not really business, but I would say business activity, you could call it, was when I was, I think, 11 or 12. I used to sell like cell phone games on those old Sony Ericsson flip phones, right? I would just download a Java game
Oh, you
and
was
send
a
it over
little
Bluetooth to my
entrepreneur from the
friends.
beginning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, for a kid, I made a lot of money. I didn't ask my parents for an allowance after that started, and then after that, I went into Yu-Gi-Oh cards, just bought and sold cards. I had a whole card exchange at school. And then after that, sold phones, and then and then moved to the Dominican Republic, got into the automotive business. I would import cars, sell them, started. I got a little bit into clothing, figured out that I didn't like that at all. Clothing businesses are like not my thing. My mom loves restaurants. I do not like that either. But anything sort of marketplace wise, where join two parties that want something and I get a cut, I'm pretty good at that. So yeah, like started since I was 11, 12, basically, and just can't stop now.
Nice. I love that. I love that. So, I was going to ask you what your first job was, but I'm assuming your first job was being a card flipper or some type of entrepreneur.
Yeah,
What was your
yeah.
first job outside? Like I get a W-2 type job if you've had one.
Hmm. Yeah. I definitely have and still do. Um, my first, I would say, job outside of any job that I created for myself was I worked, I think it was during my senior year of high school, the end of my senior year. I was 18, so I could work. I worked at a call center. So customer service. No, I first started in sales over the phone. And I went there because there was a potential for commission. So it wasn't so much, the
Mhm.
base salary, base, or what I was going to do. It was more that there was uncapped potential. That's what I was looking for because I needed, cash flow to invest in what I was actually doing. On, you know, I don't want to say like on the side because in my head that was my main thing. The job was my side thing, to keep things going.
Mhm.
So that was the first job, and then after that, transition into a more data analytics role. That was still back in the Dominican Republic, and then here in the U.S., I've worked with a commercial real estate firm called CBRE. They're pretty big.
Nice, nice. Now, I always love when people tell me those stories because I like to see how their progression and transition in life went. So,
Mhm.
see anybody listening to this with you young, old, far in between. It's not where you start; it's where you finish. And I feel like you can learn a little bit from what you did in sales and that
Mhm.
those data positions to help you out in the business you started today. If
Mhm.
you would have said you learned something from that experience, what would you say the one thing you've probably learned from having those early on jobs that's helped you in business today?
I would say in that career and life in general, the one thing that I've learned or surprised me is you never know how high you can go till you just jump. You just got to jump.
Mm,
Like last year, this time last year, now we're talking about Hugs. I got referred to you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This time last year, Hugs wasn't even incorporated yet. It wasn't a business. It was just an
mm,
idea in my head. Then I recruited people, and then I remember, just graduating from pretty expensive school, no money, nothing, and then we needed to build our product. Right, we can go to hugsinternational.com. We needed to build a marketplace, right, or a platform, and I remember we had to budget $10,000 for it, and I was like, where am I gonna find $10,000? Like over the summer, I just graduated. I don't have a job. Like where am I gonna find that? And then I just jumped, started talking to
mm.
people, started networking, found $15,000. Right, and then I was like, okay, cool.
Wow.
Then the next step is, okay, now we need to raise money, right? To actually start paying people, to build the platform, make it an actual business, do all the legal stuff, right? And we budgeted, okay, we need $100,000. And I was like, dude, I'm new here. I don't know anybody. I just graduated school. Yeah, sure. I was able to find 10 grand. Like if you fail, I can pay it back. But where am I gonna find 100 grand? Ended up raising
Hmm.
160, right? So it's like
Mm,
you just never know until you jump. And then now, now we're going into our seed round. Uh, and we were running all the calculations and all that, and turns out for the next couple of years we'll need about a million and a half, and that I'm again in the same position, like, dude, where am I going to find $1 million? I moved here 2-3 years ago to come to do a master's and get a job in like corporate America. I didn't sign up for this. And then um, we'll see. Check with me in a few months, see if we did it. But you never know how high you'll go till you jump. It's like you'll surprise yourself, and
yeah.
not so much your own potential, but you jump, and before you fall, there's someone. Oftentimes, if you've done your job well, if you've connected with the right people, um, who will be the next base on the ladder, right? It's like you jump, you won't make it all the way to the top, but before you fall down, someone's gonna catch you, and then when you jump again, you jump from a
Mm,
higher place, and you just keep going and going and
mm.
going. As long as you're passionate and you're consistent, I would say, with what you're doing, uh, you're just gonna keep jumping higher and higher.
Yeah, I heard another entrepreneur say something similar to that, and he's like, look, the thing you need to know is you got to jump, you got just jump, you'll fly, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes we're even building the plane as we're in the sky, right? And the
yeah,
things you need is just start to, just somehow navigate towards you, but you have
mm,
to take the first step. And so I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I love that you shared that. So let's
Thank
get
you.
into this company hug. So you are obviously solving a good problem that people are navigating. So tell me, give me your elevator pitch. What is Hugs? What is the problem that you guys are solving, and how have you been able to uniquely solve that problem?
Yeah, of course. So HUG stands for Housing Undergraduate and Graduate Students. And what we basically do is we help international students find housing in the US via proprietary credit scoring algorithm we developed, we call the HUG score. The problem is that when
Mhm.
international students come to the US, they come without a social security number or credit score. But to get an apartment, get a place, you need a credit score, right? So there's that gap between the landlord and the student. However, what was annoying to me is that in order to be here in the first place, international students are very thoroughly vetted by the federal government. And as part of that vetting process, we're supposed to provide uh, evidence that we can afford to be here and that we're credit worthy. So if I display to the federal government that I'm credit worthy before even getting my visa to be here, why is it that when I'm here, I'm deemed non credit worthy? And that's what we solved. So we translate the exact same
Mm,
set of documents that the government uses to assess your credit worthiness or your ability to be here, and then translate that into a score that's similar to what people have seen before. So you'll rank, 720, 660, etc. on our scale, and that's comparable to other legacy credit scoring algorithms. And we use that for people to find housing.
nice.
Uh, Again, we'll give you a free hug if you need to, if you need it, but it's not part of the process.
Hey, having a nice warm home to come to once I come here is the best hug
Yeah,
that you could ever receive. So I thank you
yeah.
for
Well,
solving that problem. So
there you
so
have it.
now tell me, what were the steps that you kind of took to kind of like get this thing started? Because I think, of course we said just jump, but strategically,
Hmm.
during that jump, there's some things you did along the way to help
Yeah.
you be successful. But what would you think
Mhm.
is the steps that you kind of took to kind of get this thing launched and ultimately be the success that it is today and still going?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you said, you got to jump, but you got to know where you're jumping to. So what before
Uh-huh.
it was even a whole business thing in my mind. Like I didn't even think of it as a business. I just thought of it as this is a problem, and I don't understand why it's still a problem. Like I just didn't understand why there was a problem. So I developed a solution and tried and tested the solution every step of the way, right? To prove myself wrong, right? So first thing I did is there was
Mhm.
a pitch competition on campus, and I had never pitched in front of a lot of people before. I had done presentations in school, and I thought I was okay at it, but I had never pitched, especially not in English and in the U.S., etc. So I just joined the pitch competition to practice, or to see the test.
Mhm.
Okay, am I is my does my hypothesis make sense, right? Does the solution I came up with
Mhm.
make sense? Will people who've never heard it resonate with it? And that was during my first
Mhm.
semester during my MBA, and my team ended up winning the whole pitch competition, and that was scholarship money too. So
Nice.
I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty helpful. And then, so that was the
Uh-huh.
first part, and that was super public. So I was like, okay, now it's kind of serious now. So let's keep moving, right? And it was pretty public. So we went to another pitch competition, won that, and another one, and every time we got better at it and refining the concepts. And so we launched in 2021, or we incorporated in 2021, but it's something I've been working on since 2019 in the background, right? I wanted to
Mhm.
really, really test it so that by the time I did it, I was damn sure it was something that was possible. I'm not saying success is assured or it's for sure or anything, but I wanted to remove the likelihood of failure as much as possible before I started. So yeah, I was jumping,
Mhm.
but I wanted to see at least where I was jumping to.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I got started in the pitch competition as well, as far as with my entrepreneurial
Mm-hmm.
endeavors. And I think those competitions are very helpful because you meet people who are in the industry, angel investors and so forth, that really
Yeah.
help plant these seeds to help you refine what it is that you're doing, your business model, and
Mm-hmm.
think of new ways to really solve that problem, or just fine tune it in a way that it makes sense all across the board. So I love that you
Yeah.
you guys did that. Um,
Thank you.
what's one good lesson you say you have learned through that process?
Through that process, I would say talk to people, because a lot of times,
Hmm.
when you're starting something, you don't want to divulge the idea. You think someone's gonna do it, someone's gonna make it, etc. There's not a lack of ideas out there. I'm not claiming to be the first one to try this or to do this. I haven't seen it done, right? But it might have been in somebody's head. I just did something about it, right? So um, just talk to people. Nobody's gonna steal your idea, and And if it's something that someone can easily replicate and do faster than you would, then either it wasn't that unique or you weren't the person to do it. So just go and talk to people. More often than not, you're going to find help rather than anything else. So don't be afraid to ask for what you think is needed. That's something I should have done or learned a bit earlier. People were more proposing to me than me asking, and I've found that whenever I ask, the conversation is open, right? Like closed mouths don't get fed. That's what they say, and it's like really, really, really true. So once I started asking people for money, all of a sudden we had money, right? But they were never gonna give it if I didn't, right? So that's one thing. Just talk to people, be honest, be clear, and every time you're going into a conversation, be prepared because a lot of times meetings kind of take long, nothing's said, nothing's taken out of it. I go into every meeting with a very specific purpose. Not that it's utilitarian, like I use the meeting for something of gain or whatever. I just want to know going into the conversation what direction we're taking so that the meeting is productive. If not, it's a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's that must be a famous saying in like every black community because my grandma used to say it, my auntie used to say it, closed
Mhm.
mouth don't get fed,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's true.
fully I don't think I fully really understood what that meant until later on in life. And then I learned the value of that life lesson because there's what's the other one? There's no such thing as a dumb question because I
Yeah.
never wanted to ask a dumb question, so I would keep
Hmm.
quiet. I don't know if you've ever had that issue too, like I don't know, that may be a dumb question. I don't want to ask it, right?
Hmm.
But you'll never
Yeah,
find
yeah.
out unless you ask the question.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I take a slightly different spin on it. The issue I had wasn't I'm naturally curious, so I'll just keep asking, right? Until I understand what I'm asking, I'll just keep asking questions. Um, but I don't think there's any dumb questions, but there might be dumb moments to ask a question, right? It's like you got to know what you're asking and ask at the right time for it. There might be brilliant questions that if they're not timed well, sound kind of dumb, or like you won't get anything out of it, no result, right? So I would say ask your questions, always ask the questions. Make sure that read the room, make sure that it's time for that question. But definitely always speak up.
Were you that kid growing up that you used to always ask, why, mommy, why? And then your parents were like, Carl, you have too many questions. Why you ask
Yeah.
so many questions? Oh my goodness. Just do the thing that
Yeah.
we're telling. Were you that kid?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely asked a lot of questions. I asked a lot of whys, and so I learned after I asked too many whys, I would get shut down. I would learn like how many whys I can ask to like get the maximum, and then shift into something else after that. But yeah, I definitely got scolded for this. Like just do
Wow.
the thing, you know.
I love that. I love that. So, you strike me as somebody because I feel like you're so wise at such a young age. I'm gonna take it one step further. What's one good lesson life has taught you?
Life, ooh, it's hard to boil down into one. I'm gonna need a second because a good lesson life has taught me, I would say, take an active approach on your growth. So regardless of, you know, what you do in life or how you take life or whatever, you're gonna grow in an area or another. Right? What you spend the most time on typically, or either time or effort, typically they go hand in hand, but that's where you'll be growing in. And what I think a lot is a lot of people don't control where they grow. So they grow in an area that's either unproductive or not a fit. Uh, or they just don't have a control of their life. And then years later, they become a completely different person that they don't, recognize themselves. But if you take an active approach, and it doesn't have to be a lot. Like it doesn't. It's I'm not saying read a book every day or anything. Just just try and orient your life in a certain way. Because that's what I did to be able to, still modest achievements so far, but still, grow in my own way. It's I took an active approach and really looked at myself every few months or so. It's like, okay, how have I grown? Where have I grown? And where do I want to grow? Right. And then you sort of take an
Mm.
active approach, and then you become, uh, you know, better version is kind of subjective, but you become a more intentional version of yourself is how I would say it. Whether it's better or not, that anybody can tell you, oh, this you were better before, you're better now. Like I don't take that into consideration. It's more if I'm who I want to be, then that's the best version of myself that I can be.
Yeah, I love that. You definitely got to take an active approach with anything that you want to get better in life.
Yeah.
Um, and being intentional in the theme of being intentional, let's say, because I think you're going to inspire somebody who's going to listen to this today, um,
Thank you.
especially if they've been thinking about jumping into this, especially the industry you're in, and specifically
Hmm.
geared towards your industry. Like, what is some advice you would like to give somebody who wants to start a career in your industry, right?
Hmm.
They because I see the tech community is like one of those communities or industries that's like the fastest growing industry and has the
Hmm.
most room for growth, especially for black people wanting to get into the industry, right?
Hmm.
So specifically your niche of the industry, uh,
Yeah.
I forget the term you used earlier. Is it home tech? Like I don't know what was the term you used
Prop
earlier?
tech. Yeah.
Could you remind me?
Prop tech.
Prop tech. So somebody wanted to get into prop tech, right? What's some advice you would give to somebody who's trying to get into this industry?
As far as prop tech goes, I would say really try to narrow down exactly what you're trying to work on. And if you can relate to it, that's even better because a lot of solutions are very broad and there's a lot of overlap in the industry. So you'll create a device, that's a smart lock, for example, but it does this one specific thing, but it also does this, 100,000 other things that other smart locks do. So things kind of blend in a lot in the prop tech business. And, there's a very clear distinction between hardware and software. And there's a lot of appetite for each. You just got to know where to go to get the right people on board as far as investors, employees, just advice. Um, so I would say before you get into prop tech, figure out what what you want to work on, and if you like hardware or software
Mm-hmm.
based businesses, the best software based businesses are cheaper to start and typically grow faster and have
Mm-hmm.
less headaches. But hardware businesses create a better connection because it's something that's physically there. Um, but it's definitely a lot of work. It's very expensive to start. So yeah, I would say for product
Yeah.
specifically, figure out exactly what you want to do because there's a lot of overlap. You're gonna confuse people.
Yeah. And speaking to that point, it's very expensive to start. So as somebody, let's say I'm a Pan African, Haitian, Nigerian, or somebody who
Mhm.
doesn't have the access to that capital, how do I get my foot in the door to start? Like where would I go? What are the best resources or best practices?
Yeah, so what I did again, remember I didn't have any money to get everything started and get the company incorporated and all that. I went back to my school. They have a free legal clinic. I use them. They charge me nothing and they
What?
set up my company
The
for me.
school has a
Yeah,
free legal clinic?
yeah,
Wow, I
yeah,
had no idea.
yeah. You just look at your
So
school.
that
Look
is
at
a
where you're
good
from.
service.
Yeah, you can ask, and it's not even just your school. You can go to other law schools. A lot of times they do pro bono work, right? So it's basically free,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a legal clinic for their law students to practice. So you can go to a completely random law school
Mm-hmm.
and ask, hey, do you have a free legal clinic? And do you do this? And if it's yes, done. You formed a company and it costs you zero money. So that's one way
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. And you can do that for other services too, for finance and, hiring and all of that. And a lot of times, I'll give you a tip too to raise money if you don't have a lot. Uh, they do, people say do friends and family round and all that. I don't have a lot of rich family, so nobody was going to give me, the money I needed. And Hugs started raising through crowdfunding. We went to WeFunder.com and then set up a campaign, and people who uh, who resonated with us and thought we were doing something valuable, they supported us. They invested and supported us, and that's how we raised most of our money was through the crowd, and that was a lot of fun.
Man, that's amazing. Um, what do you think the future has in store for the prop tech industry, and specifically, like when you look at having more spaces for people that look like you and me to get into this
Mhm.
industry?
As far as prop tech goes, I'm pretty new to it. Again, I just moved here a few years ago. I had to go to school, learn everything. So I feel like I'm just getting into the industry, but it's very, very, very fast moving, like you said. So as far as prop tech
Mm-hmm.
goes, I don't see the ceiling. It could go anywhere from here. As far as hugs within prop tech, um, there's a lot of room. The potential is really big. I can't even begin to tell you where it's gonna go.
Nice. So where do you say Hugs is at now when in its journey as a company, and what's Hugs really currently working on now to increase the journey that you're on and improve the services?
Mhm.
What does that look like right now?
Yeah. So we officially launched our product back in August of 2021. That was a lot of fun because we started monetizing instantly, which is a pretty big deal for a lot of startups. The first customer to pay you, and that during our first week we had our first student place, and that was a lot of fun. And we started with August, $2,000-3,000 a month in deals. Now we're clearing almost 50 grand in deals with a lot in the pipeline. So we're growing pretty quickly. Next phase is going to be this fundraising that we do. We're pretty early in our career, to be honest. A lot of people start raising or doing this a little bit later than we do, but we're growing quickly, so I'm pretty confident we'll be good. Yeah, we're just like super early in our journey, getting our feet wet. Uh, Over the summer, the hope is to bring a few more people on full time and to branch out of San Diego into the rest of California.
Nice. I like that. I like that. So man, this is quite the journey, and I'm loving to see your progression. I can't wait to see what's next for Hugs. Yeah, well,
Thank
we
you.
should do some Hugs community events. So within the different communities that are out here in San Diego, so they know that this service is available. I was like, I didn't even know about it until recently. I was like, man, we got to tell more people about this.
Yeah, yeah,
so
appreciate it.
no, yeah, no, appreciate you. So I guess we'll end off like this. What's something that you want to give as last words of wisdom and advice for people, and where can people find you and really support you and really connect with some of the things that you're doing?
Yeah, I don't know if it's wisdom or advice or anything, but I would go back to our point of just jumping. Whatever you're gonna do, whether it's in business, relationship, personal, and all that, you never know where it's gonna take you. Really, you can have an idea about how it's gonna go. You're not gonna know. It's like the when I came here, my intention was to come do my MBA and get into consulting. I'm doing something completely different, which I'm having way more fun with. Could have gone the other way, but you just don't know, right? So just jump. And as far as where you can find me, if you use LinkedIn, I'm pretty active on there. You can just use my name. If you Google me, it'll probably pop up too. You can use that. And then for Hugs specifically, most active social media is going to be Instagram, and that's hugs.intl. It means Hugs International. So you can find us on Instagram there.
Awesome. And if you're driving, don't worry. I'm gonna put all this in the show notes. I'm gonna have them email it to me, and you can connect as always. Just out of curiosity, what was you? Where were you getting your MBA in?
Uh, so I focused on managerial leadership, is what they called it, but it's a
Uh
master's in
huh.
business administration.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, I mean, that's going to serve you well still
Yeah,
with
yeah,
building your
yeah.
company. So all well done, well done.
Thank
Any
you.
current events or anything that people could connect with you as far as events that you'll be at or places on where you're speaking that people can catch you if they wanted to.
Yeah, I have a few of these lined up. So if you want to stay connected or stay in touch, we'll be posting everything on our Hugs social media pages. So follow us there or connect with me on LinkedIn. You can be sure I'll be loud about where I'm gonna be, and you can connect there and reach out anytime.
Love it, love it. I just want to make sure I give everybody the opportunity to connect with you because it's just been a pleasure to be here and speaking with you. And I'm a fan. As you can see, I'm a huge fan. I love what you're doing,
Thank you.
and I can't wait to see what else comes in the future. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You got all the info. I'm gonna put it in the show notes as I said. Thank you for being a part of our special episode today, and then we'll stay connected with my brother Carl to see if there's anything else that we could do as far as events in the future. So stay tuned. Thank you again, Carl. Appreciate you. Have a great night, everybody.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Have a good one.